Hello, everybody. Welcome to a brand new season of the AfterWord.
Oh, it's a season.
And not only is it a brand new season, we're coming at you from a brand new studio.
A brand new and improved, carpeted.
I think it's not a new studio.
No, it's a new studio.
It's the second.
It's a new studio.
It's the second floor of our previous studio. Yeah, so
we're calling it the Loft.
Oh.
Welcome to the Loft.
To the Loft.
Anyway, I am Betty, and here we have Vince Black and Kirsten Black. And thanks for tuning in. It feels like it's been ages since we've done this, so I kind of feel like I don't know what I'm doing anymore.
You're doing a great job so far. You're doing a great job.
I mean, when you start a new season, you need to kind of take a pause, and reset. So that's what we did. We had 2 weeks. So it's going to take some relearning. It was only 2 weeks, but it's going to take some relearning.
Wow.
Like a lot
I don't even know what we're doing.
But anyway.
What are we doing? What is this?
Is what I was about to say. The AfterWord exists just as a way for us to dig deeper into the passage that was preached on Sunday and to gain further insights and also see how our affections were raised for God through the sermon. That's what we're doing here.
Perfect.
And today we have an intro question submitted. Well, I don't know which one of you came up with it. We have an intro question. What is your least favorite household task or like yard work related thing? Was that the question? Right?
It may or may not have come from some tension that Kirsten and I often have. The question.
Should we unpack this here?
Yeah, let's do this.
Should we just use this as a counseling session? We can
Why don't
unpack
you start,
some things.
Kirsten?
Least favorite. I don't mind doing laundry. I struggle to fold it and put it away. Even folding it it's putting it away. I don't like putting away laundry. And probably unloading the dishwasher, which I do it almost every day, but those would probably be the two that I enjoy least.
Okay, so
inside the house.
I thought we were doing like a seasonal sort of chore thing. No?
I thought we established that it wasn't.
It was not.
We did establish that it was not seasonal.
I was somewhere else. Sorry.
That's okay.
You must have been downstairs.
Yeah, downstairs, not in the loft.
In light of the fact that there's often a lot of outdoor chores to do this time of year, and in that vein, we're thinking about things that we don't necessarily enjoy. And it can be seasonal or it can be not seasonal.
Gotcha.
And so are there things that you're thankful that you have a body that works and you are thankful that you can do things, but if you have free time, it's not what you would choose to do?
All of them?
I was going to say, when you put it like that.
Yeah.
I love cleaning. Like, I legitimately love cleaning. And so, like, usually
But what if
chores,
things were always clean? Wouldn't you like that better?
It's not possible.
No, but wouldn't you like that better?
I don't know if I would. I love cleaning because you see so much progress. I don't mind yard work. I'm thankful, again, that I can be out there and moving.
All right. Kirsten's putting a positive spin on everything.
But she answered the question.
She did answer the question this time.
And now it's your turn, Vince.
I already said nothing. There's nothing that I want to do.
So then the answer to the question is everything is your least favorite?
Yeah, everything is my least favorite. A dishwasher, I don't like doing that. But I could keep going with all the things.
No, great. That was good.
And I'm not sure of anyone other than Kirsten who likes doing them. But go ahead, Betty.
Okay, I do enjoy cleaning to some extent. I used to have a job that was pretty much all cleaning, and I didn't mind it. But I agree with both of the things that you said, Kirsten, and specifically with the laundry.
And one of the things I said.
And one of the things that you said, Vince. But like with laundry, I hate putting it away. I always fold it and put it back in the basket and then take a long time to put it away. But my least favorite is I hate sweeping and mopping.
Why?
I don't know. I'd rather clean the toilet than sweep or mop. I just don't enjoy it. I think there's a piece of, I don't know, it feels harder for me to be thorough for some reason with it. And I do think part of it is that we don't have a very good mop currently, and that makes me like it even less. But
hot take. I have
God shot.
God, no, this I don't think this is a God shot because it's not about God. I have this contraption that is a wet dry vac. So you vacuum with it first, and then you can put water in it, and then it mops and it's all in one, and it does a really nice job on the floors. So you need to get one of those.
Why is that a hot take? Do other people not like those?
No, I just think you don't know about it. So
well, great.
I know someone. He might be one of our listener. We'll call him John. He told me years ago that he doesn't ever fold his laundry. That he just does laundry and then puts it away and doesn't fold it.
That's what my boys do.
Yeah.
Except one of them.
One of them does.
One of them is very fastidious about the laundry that he does, but the others, they do not fold anything, but they do put it in their drawers.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Halfway. All right, we should move on.
Yes, let us move on. Well, yesterday we just started a brand new series, hence our new season of the AfterWord.
From the loft. We need a like where you can press a button from the loft.
Okay, I'll work on that this week. But we started Colossians yesterday. So Vince, would you be willing to give us an introduction to Colossians and a recap of the sermon?
Yeah, I'll try to very, very quickly give some insight into the book, the letter itself. Every time we start a new book of the Bible, we have to take into consideration the background, the context, all of that, so that we understand where the writing is coming from. So Paul is the author. While there's quite a bit of debate on that, Paul is the author. It's where I've landed, where we will, for the purposes of this series, land that Paul has written this letter to the church in Colossae around 62 AD, so about 10 years after Paul had made his way to Ephesus. And while he was in Ephesus for 3 years, somebody by the name of Epaphras, who we meet in Colossians, likely made his way to Ephesus, met Paul, was likely converted to Christianity under Paul's ministry, and Epaphras was from Colossae, so he went back to Colossae and likely started the church there, at least helped the church flourish in Colossae. So Paul has direct information, direct insight from Epaphras about what's going on there, because Epaphras is now linked back up with Paul during the writing of this letter. They're both in prison in Rome, and so Paul's writing this letter from sort of a house arrest kind of prison situation with Epaphras with him, writing back to the church in Colossae, a church that he has never visited. And we see that in a couple different places in the book of Colossians, where he talks about how he's heard of their faith and how Epaphras is the one who has given word to Paul about what's going on there, and the fact that they sent the letter with someone else, so they didn't take it directly. It came from someone else. So Paul has likely never been to Colossae. He's come through the valley, that Lycus Valley, where Hierapolis is, and also Lystra are in that valley. So he's come through there. We see that in the book of Acts, but we have no information about Colossae. And so Paul writes this letter to the Colossian church. It's a short letter with the primary theme being Christ is over everything. And so the only information we have about why he's writing that is from the letter to the Colossian church itself. We don't have any information from the book of Acts about any heresy that was going on there or any false teaching that was going on there. It's possible that Judaism had penetrated there, and so there were Jewish people there. There's thought that maybe some of these Jews had become Christians, and so there's a small church that had begun, and Epaphras was influential in getting that going. It's from chapter 2, I think we see it in verse 4, verse 8, verse 16. There are things that Paul addresses about what they are probably going through, but in each of those ways that he addresses the church, he pushes it to for them to see Christ. So it's constantly, but look at Christ, look at Christ, look at Christ. So throughout the letter, there are over 70 different references to Christ. and lots of words, all-encompassing words like all and every, all of those pointing to Christ and his sufficiency. So it seems as if the church there was struggling to remember that Christ was all sufficient for everything they needed, and that their focus needed to be on Christ. So Paul's writing a letter with those things in mind. So that's sort of the intro. Then we jumped into the first 14 verses where Paul gives a very typical greeting to the church from this letter, and then he gives ways that he's thankful. There's a prayer to God, verses 3 through 14, this thanksgiving to God for the people, and then a prayer offered up to God for the ongoing growth of the people in their Christ likeness. And that's where we ended. It was really a fast move through the first part of that chapter to get through it. But there is the recap.
Thanks, Vince.
Yeah.
First question. As we look at the beginning chunk, we see Paul expressing his gratitude for the church at Colossae. And I'm sorry, I was looking at the wrong thing.
Different notes. She was back in Second Samuel. She was.
Yeah, I was going to ask about David. Why do we, and this is something that you hit on yesterday in the sermon, just our own expression of gratitude for people in prayer, but just thinking either personally or generally, if we can think of it, why is it a struggle for us to express gratitude for people in prayer?
I think often we take for granted the people that God has put in our lives. And so we don't consider maybe on a regular basis that every good gift that is from God. Every good gift that we have is a gift from God. And so when we have godly people in our lives, when we have people that have loved us through hard things and served us and shown us who Christ is, like that is a gift from God. And so I think it's probably a lack of awareness of the kindness of God in the way that he shows pieces of his character to us through the people that he puts in our lives.
Yeah, that's good. I think for me, I'm working at trying to do a better job of actually thanking the people personally for different ways that they've been a help to me or been a blessing to me. So I'm trying to do that. Hopefully, by God's grace, I'm getting better at that. I want to be a thankful person. I think often whenever I go through this thought process, well, I thank them, and so the box is checked, like I did what I needed to do. But I don't often turn that thanksgiving back to God, because God, like you were saying, Kirsten, God is the one who allowed this person to be in my path, or for me to come into contact with them or interact with them. That's a gift from God. So I don't know if I have a reason other than I feel like I've done the job by thanking the person, and so therefore there's where it ends. So this for me was a great reminder. It was a conviction for me that I need to spend time, and we've worked over the last day adding that to our prayers, even with our boys, just thanksgiving to God for people in our life. What about you, Betty? Anything different?
I think half of it is similar to what you were saying. I think I thank the people and don't naturally turn that around as thanksgiving to God. But for whatever reason, too, I think it's easier for me to really look at and be thankful for like things rather than people. And that's, someone was just talking to me about this yesterday right after church, and because we've been going through Colossians for like the last year, like some women and I think looking back at it now, I didn't realize how much this part was hard for me. And we were just talking through that, and I was realizing that it is like easier for me to be like, oh, I look at good gifts as in like tangible gifts and think of like things or like situations even that I've been in, but like less about people, even because I think what you said too, I can thank them. So then in my mind too, it doesn't translate to being thankful to the Lord. And I think I saw last night at college study, you were intentional about Thanksgiving for everyone in the group, and that felt really unnatural. And I don't like that felt unnatural too.
Can we take a second just to talk through some people who we're thankful for? People in the church? I'm asking a question that I haven't yet really thought about.
Yes.
So, all right. let's just share.
I'm incredibly thankful. I'll start with a group for the youth leaders and the patience that they have. There's a large group of junior high boys.
Those are saints already.
Yeah, and two of my boys, benefit from the youth leaders' service, and I'm incredibly grateful for their faithfulness and the way that they serve up or show up each week and serve the youth that are there. That's no small commitment, especially on a Sunday afternoon when you're kind of wanting to, probably chill and get ready for the week, and you're with a group of really rambunctious junior high boys.
Okay. I'm thankful for the people on staff at the church who do a lot of administrative stuff that I don't like doing or don't do a great job of doing. So Carrie, Jen, Betty does some of that stuff too. They are extremely gifted in those things and do a really good job of and none of it gets a whole lot of credit. None of it gets a whole lot of recognition, and they don't want it. But they are a huge blessing to us as a church, to us as a staff, to me personally.
Well, and with not getting a lot of credit or wanting it, I think of Joy Fergus, who leads our service teams, hospitality team. And she is always incredibly joyful, and she's the reason why there's coffee out there every Sunday morning and making sure that people feel welcomed. And
did you know her name was actually Christine, but we've just called her Joy because that's what she exhibits?
That's not true.
That's not true. I made that up.
I was like, no, I didn't know that, but it would make sense. But I really appreciate Joy, and just even her demeanor. She is always very gentle and joyful. I'm thankful for
good.
that.
Am I allowed to have two different answers?
You can have 50. We could spend the entire time just doing this. I think it'd be a benefit.
Well, one of them that I was going to say is the same thing Kirsten said, the youth leaders. I'm really thankful for them. And I think I see that, especially on weeks that are really difficult. I'm just really thankful for the ways that they do show up and commit and invest deeply and just hear and see their level of care for the students, and in things that I often overlook, or when I get caught up in details of certain things, like they are there to really invest well, and they know how to handle things that I don't always know how to handle, and I'm thankful for that. And I'm also very thankful for both of you. I think you have both invested in me well over this last year, and it's been a really huge gift, and I've seen a lot of growth in my own life, and I am thankful because I think both of you have contributed to that in big ways. So
that's why I asked this question. I was hopeful.
Yeah.
I was hopeful you would turn it back. Not really. That's very kind, Betty. There are a lot of people who on a Sunday morning will come up to me immediately after a sermon and express their gratitude for very specific things I've said in a sermon that were helpful. And that's always extremely encouraging to me. I think John File does it often. Anytime he says anything about the sermon, it's always with some very specific example that was really helpful for him. That's an encouragement to me, so I'm thankful for him. There are others too, but he comes to mind.
Along that same line I was thinking of the Files as well, in that they pick up Iva every week and bring her to church. And I love the way that they have kind of folded her into their family. And that is a beautiful thing. Iva's a gal who doesn't have family and is here in town. And she is deeply loved by the Files. And I'm really thankful for that example.
I am also very thankful for the youth. I think they've just been really fun to invest in and get to know over this last year. And I have been part of serving in the youth for 4 years now, but it's just been so different this last year, and I'm really thankful for them. And just especially Solomon has been just so fun, I think, to get to know over this last year. And he's someone who is always an encouragement to me and makes me smile, especially on Sunday mornings. So
that's good.
All of the youth.
I think this is, so we can talk through these things, and I think it's beneficial for us to do that. I think the real meat of this, from what we get from the text, is then that we would turn those back to God in thanksgiving too. So that would be my encouragement for anyone listening, that you add to your prayers ways that you can be thankful for people, or ways that you are thankful for people, and then also encourage those people and how they've been a blessing to you.
Well, and I think too, along those lines, thinking about what character traits of God are you seeing in the lives of those people? Because I think that's sometimes the way that God shows pieces of himself to us, is through his saints, is through the people that love him. And so really taking time to thank God specifically for the character traits that you might notice in those people. And so, I mean, as I think about the youth leaders, I think we see faithfulness there, and that's something that shows the heart of God. In Solomon, you probably see joy, and so that's something that represents and shows us the heart of God. And so really considering, like, what about these people am I experiencing maybe the love and care of God?
That's good. This was good time. I liked that. We also see in this beginning section of Colossians, well, you mentioned it, Vince, it talks about Epaphras, and he is someone who has invested deeply in the church there. So a question I have kind of goes into discipleship. And do you have a story of someone in your life from the past who has spent time discipling you, and what has that looked like, or how has that impacted you?
That's good. Yeah, we see in Paul, likely Paul had an influence in Epaphras, and even in that first verse, he says, "And Timothy, our brother," and we know Paul's influence with Timothy and the ways that he built Timothy up. It's vital for the church to have that. I think for me, a couple different things come to mind. One, my parents were influential in shaping who I am and what I believe. So that has been a blessing to me. But someone who has influenced me in terms of ministry is a guy by the name of Chris. His name was actually Christopher Robin. Christopher Robin was his middle name, and he was a skinny, redheaded guy.
It's a true story.
That's a true story. So kind of like the kid from Winnie the Pooh. Anyway, Chris was he took a chance on me, and I say that because my last couple of years of high school, I didn't really have any desire to be a part of the church. Didn't really want to be invested. I had been there and I had done that, and didn't really want to be around. And Chris stepped in as the youth leader at our church at that time. I didn't really give much attention to him, didn't really care a whole lot about him. He was pushing us and pushing the youth in some ways I didn't really want to be about. So anyway, just kind of gave him the cold shoulder. I went off to college and ended up leaving that school and coming back for a semester back home. And when I arrived back home, he said, "Hey, I would love to get together with you on a regular basis and spend some time." He didn't use the word discipleship. I probably would have said no if he would have said that, but I'd love to get together with you regularly every week. And so we met at Steak and Shake. If anybody from the Midwest knows Steak and Shake, we met at Steak and Shake at 6 a.m. every Wednesday morning. And he just walked me through knowing God more through reading the Bible, but also helping me understand what ministry could look like. He invited me to be a part of leadership in the youth group. The very same youth group that I sort of gave the cold shoulder to not too much before that. And there's a lot of his influence in why I am where I am now, and having a desire to be involved in ministry in the local church was a part of that. So he was a Paul to me in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I think the person that comes to mind was also in high school, and her name was Beth, and she invested...
When you were in high school.
When I was in high school, yes. Yeah. But yeah, she was, I don't know, probably in her 20s, and just invested in me and a couple of other friends really deeply, and did a Bible study with us and discipled us, and was very involved in our lives throughout high school, and that had a profound impact on me. It really, I think, shaped me and helped me maybe take some ownership of faith that maybe had not been my own before that. And I still look back and consider that maybe one of the most impactful relationships as far as like pointing me to Christ when I was young.
The person who comes to mind for me is a gal named Eden. In my sophomore year of college, she came on staff with NAVS, and we were leading a Bible study together. And so initially, like, us meeting wasn't any formal like discipleship. It was mostly just checking in as co-leaders. But she just really was one of the first people to challenge me well in my faith and call out things that she saw and just really take me to Scripture, like in whatever I was working through or walking through. And she just wanted to do life with me and care for me. And I'm really grateful for her. And she has since moved overseas, but she's still like a big part of my life, and someone that does, whenever I talk to her, is a huge encouragement and calls me higher. And I'm really grateful for her.
Oh, that's good. I think my encouragement to us is to consider those relationships and what they have meant for us now, who we are now, but to consider the relationships we currently have with people we may be discipling, recognizing that we don't know what the impact may be. We don't know where God may be taking someone down the road. I would guess, I haven't talked to Chris in a long time, but I would guess Chris and so many others would be, in some ways be shocked by where I am now. Not that I have arrived, I don't mean it that way, but just what God has done in our lives. So that's an encouragement to each of us, that the time that we're investing in the lives of people to be walking them further and further toward Jesus is extremely valuable, and we don't know yet what God may do to continue to move in them. So
yeah, I mean, I'm sure Paul didn't meet with Epaphras thinking, "Oh, I'm hoping that you're going to go to Colossae and plant a church." Like,
this is going to be in the Bible.
Write
this down.
I think he was just being faithful to what he felt like God had called him to do, which was discipling. And so it made me think of 1 Corinthians 3:5. It says, "What then is Apollos? What is Paul? Servants through whom you believed, as the Lord assigned to each. I planted, Apollos watered, but God gave the growth. So neither he who plants nor he who waters is anything, but only God who gives the growth. He who plants and he who waters are one, and each will receive his wages according to his labor. For we are God's fellow workers. You are God's field, God's building." And so just considering the fact that, like, God calls us fellow workers, like he has invited us into this journey with him, which is crazy that God would invite us to work with him and be a fellow worker. And yet we are called to plant seeds, and it's kind of exciting to consider what God might cause to flourish out of that. We have no idea.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, that's a good encouragement. Second half of this section is Paul's prayer for the church, verses 9 through 14. From that prayer and what we see there, are there any specific things that you would love prayer for in your own life?
I think this can be a good model for anyone who, when people are quick to ask, "How can I pray for you?" It's easy to come up with, I have a test this week, or I have a meeting this week, or this is a thing that I'm facing. But maybe to take it a step further is to look at this list of things and just consider, what are the things listed in this verse that would be things that God might be pleased to answer yes to. And so for me, let's see, in verse 11, "For all endurance and patience with joy." I think that would be the one for me, that as I endure, that I would have patience and that I would also have joy. That's the one that stands out to me.
That's good. Yeah, I mean, I've voiced that before, that the with joy part is something that I would love prayer for. I've sensed that growing in me, but I want that to continue. This is not really answering your question, Betty, but I think just the way that Paul starts, he says, "From the day we heard, we've not ceased to pray for you." I think just knowing that there are people who regularly pray for me, for us, is powerful. To know that we have people who are standing beside us regularly, praying for us in all of these different things that we have listed here, I think is just a beautiful reminder for me. And I know there are people who do that.
There's a verse in Revelation, I think I've shared it before, that talks about the golden bowls full of incense, which are the prayers of the saints. And so just this picture comes to mind that when we pray, there are these golden bowls that are overflowing with the prayers of God's people. And so I look forward one day. I hope that's a literal thing and not just an allegory, but I'm really looking forward to seeing that, because I think I don't understand prayer, and I don't understand how impactful it is. And yet I think there's this piece of me that wants to pray because I think I don't understand it, and yet I know there's something powerful to it. And so just seeing those golden bowls full of incense that are overflowing one day, knowing that they were the prayers that carried us through things, prayers spoken that we didn't even know were spoken on our behalf.
Wouldn't it be fascinating to know, like, I'm just looking at the first thing that pops into my mind here, that what I see in the verse, Paul prays that they would walk in a manner worthy of the Lord, fully pleasing to him. So that's the first thing that catches my eye. Wouldn't it be fascinating to know if what we sense in our own lives of obedience to that, how that's directly connected to someone who was praying and that God had answered that prayer? Just to know that none of the things we're doing that are honoring to God come from us, but they come from what God is doing in us. And at times, those things that God is doing in us are answers to prayers from people who have labored in prayer for us. Can we get a hold of that file from God somewhere?
That'd be amazing. I think also in verse 12, giving thanks to the Father, and just considering that in prayer, like, I think my prayer life is probably weighed too heavily on one side of asking God, talking to him about the things that I need and talking to him about the things that I think are wrong. I would love to grow in giving thanks and praising God for who he is. I think I've shared this before, but I read a book last year that talked about the fact that when we're in heaven, there's not going to be problems anymore. We're not going to be navigating sin and brokenness anymore. And so the things that we're talking to God about are not going to be this long laundry list of things that are wrong. And so as we set our minds towards heaven, as we set our hearts towards eternity, understanding that what are we going to talk to God about? If the only thing that we're talking to him about right now are things that we need or things that we want or things that are wrong, what kind of conversation does that leave for us when we're in heaven? And so, I'm trying to grow in thanking God and in growing in thankfulness and growing in talking to him about who he is and praising him, but it's still an area that I have a long way to go.
That's good. How about you, Betty? Do you have anything that comes to mind from the prayer of Paul?
Yes. Verse 11, also, I think kind of the same portion of it that both of you were talking about, the endurance and patience with joy. I just feel like this has been a very painful growing season, and I think it's hard, one, to sit in it with patience, and often there are days that it's harder to endure the ways that is difficult. So I think that's one that really came to mind. But then also the end of 10, actually all of 10 really. So it's to walk in a manner worthy of the Lord, fully pleasing to him, and then bearing fruit in every good work and increasing in the knowledge of God. I think, this is kind of a segue into the next question. In like increasing our knowledge of God and like bearing fruit in every good work and seeing like in that too, as I increase in my knowledge of him, do I really see that he is all and just really see the supremacy of Christ in my own life? I think that's something I've been wrestling through recently. So a question is, what are like practical things we can do or encouragements when we are in those seasons where it's harder to see Christ as our all, or Christ as all in general?
I think Vince and I were talking about this same thing this morning, because I think it's actually a pretty normal part of the Christian life to go through seasons where Christ doesn't feel like he is all. And yet it's not something we often talk about. And so I think there is those seasons and those times of wrestling and those times of feeling like, yeah, God, I know you should be my all, but I don't know if you are. And as we were talking, one thing Vince said was that Christ is all. It doesn't actually matter how we feel about it. It doesn't change his role or his supremacy regardless of how we are feeling in the moment. And so wrestling through that, a few things came to mind. I think sometimes we don't, or maybe we can't understand the all-sufficiency of Christ until we're in a season where everything else has been taken away. And so recognizing that there are seasons that God does strip us of everything that feels comfortable or familiar, I think in part to show us that Christ is enough and that Christ is all. And I think in those seasons too, God in his grace gives us the understanding to see those things and understand in a different way, in a new way, in understanding that Christ is far more valuable than maybe we can actually believe in our day-to-day life. And so, and he gives us the faith in those moments to see that and to understand that. And so I think it's a normal thing to wrestle with that. And I think God in his kindness also takes our really hard seasons and opens our eyes to see that that Christ is enough.
That's good. I think something that comes to my mind is we, in terms of practical ways that we can move in that direction, when Christ doesn't, when we don't have the sense that yes, he is all. What do we do? It's not just about doing, but there are ways, I think, habits we can put in place that will draw us in. And so the example that comes to mind is we've lived here for 15 years in 2 days. And I don't know of anybody who would say, oh, the mountains, they're not that big of a deal. I think everybody is sort of in awe of the mountains. We've lived here for 15 days, and we haven't gotten into 15 years. Did I say days the first time?
No, you said years the first time.
We've also lived here for 15 years. So both of those things are true. We've lived here for 15 years, but we haven't gotten into the mountains a whole lot. We have some here and there, but not as much as you would think we would. And till about a year ago, I started trail running and have gotten into the mountains more and more. And the higher I can climb, the more in awe I am with the mountains. And the more I'm running on the trails, the more I want to be on the trails. And I think the same holds true with our seeing Christ as all. If we have a desire to see Christ as all and have nothing, and we're not putting anything forward to move in that direction, it's likely that we won't see that. If I have a desire to be in awe of the mountains, and yet I never look toward the west or never get up into them, I probably won't grow in awe of the mountains. And so I think there is a responsibility and also an opportunity for us to be moving toward Christ, that our affections would be growing, that we would see him as all. And so we have a responsibility. I think there are also times when we are put in situations where we don't have a choice and we begin to see that Christ is all. When we're in the pits of despair over some suffering and we have nowhere else to turn, I think we can see that Christ is all, and we really feel that. We sense it. We believe it. But there are seasons where we don't. We drift away from that. And so we have to put into practice ways that we can do that. So being with other people who may encourage us in that direction, reading his word, spending time in passages like what we'll get at this next week, verses 15 through 23 of chapter 1, just seeing Christ as the one who is head over all things. I think sitting in those things alone with other people, being reminded of it. I think there's some actions there.
I think there's also times of just confession. I mean, I know I've had many times where I've said to the Lord, God, I know you are enough, but it doesn't feel like you are right now. And so I need you to show me that you're enough and that you're going to be enough, regardless of what happens. I need you to show me that, because right now I'm struggling. And I think it echoes the prayer of the Father in Mark 9, like, I do believe, but help my unbelief. And so there are pockets of confession there as well, and just desire, like, God, I want you to be enough for me. I want you to be all. And yet with that also comes fear, because what are you going to ask me to give up? What do I need to let go of? What types of things, or maybe am I holding on to that I'm treasuring more than you? And I know that prayer is going to require me to sacrifice, and that's scary. And so, I mean, I talk to the Lord about these things all the time. But just, I think there are times that there needs to be confession that we're not there, and we desire it, and we know it's the right thing, and we know it's good. And yet we also know that it's probably going to come with some suffering.
I don't have anything to add. I was just listening to all of that. That's helpful. I'll move us into our final question. But as a final act of rebellion, before Eric comes back soon, we're going to modify the final question a little bit. From the loft. From the loft. Yeah, let me remember. I need to remember to add that. So, final question is, how do we hope our affections for God are raised through the duration of this study of Colossians?
It's good. Good rebellion.
Thanks.
I hope I hope to better understand and comprehend what the sufficiency of Christ means, like how that impacts my life. Like, what does that mean in a day-to-day living, that Christ is all and his sufficiency is all. I think a lot of the times, especially in Christian circles, we can say these catchphrases and we can talk about these things, and they can be these really grand ideas, but when it comes down to it, like, what does that mean? How does that affect my daily living? Like, what does that mean for my life right now? And so I'm hoping to understand more of the sufficiency of Christ and how that impacts my life today.
I'm going to rebel against your rebellious question a little bit and answer for me, but also for our church, in my hopes. One of my hopes for me and our church is that we would grow in our affections for Jesus together as a church in a way that's very visible to the church body. In our gatherings together on Sunday, there are times, and I have a perspective on this. This is not a shaming thing, but this is something I think we can grow in as a church. There are times when from the front, because I often spend a lot of time up front, it looks as if not many people really have a desire to be here on a Sunday morning. And I think a prayer of mine, a desire of mine as we work through this and so many other things over the next months and years is that our affections would grow for Christ in such a way that it overflows from us on a Sunday morning in the ways that we interact with one another, in the ways that we sing, and the posture that we take on Sunday morning. I've been a soccer dad for a long time, and I have seen how people can be excited around sporting events. And it's rare that I see the same kind of enthusiasm on a Sunday morning, either from myself or from others in our church family. And I want that to change. I want that to grow for us as a church, that we would have an enthusiasm, that we get to be together to worship the risen King, and that we would be uninhibited, unhindered by what this person or that person may think, but that we are able to worship Jesus together. So my prayer, my hope for myself and for us as a church is that we would grow in that. Our affections would grow, and that it would be visible and encouraging to one another.
I don't have much that's different from that, but just want to see and believe and delight in the fact that Christ really is all. And that's like a lot of, I mean, what we're going through in youth group right now, which is also the vision of the church, like to see the gospel transform everything, and just like what does it look like to live in such a way where we see that Christ truly is all. And it's easy to like stand up at youth group and talk about it, but do I believe that? And is that something that's really hitting my heart too? And then I'm also just excited for just further study in Colossians. I've been with other people working to memorize it, and I think in scripture memory it's easy to just, and tempting, just kind of memorize it, but I'm excited for like a depth of study in it, and just to see a broader picture of where I have been for the last year.
How far in are you in memorization?
This week we're going for 2:14, so we have chapter 1 down and like half of 2.
That's encouraging. That's fun. That's a good drive. Kirsten heard something today that if you write down 3 verses of Colossians every day, you will have written down the entire book in a month. Is that right?
Yep, that's accurate.
So yeah, just putting some of those things into practice. Like, how do we keep this? For the last 2 or 3 weeks, we have read these verses that we'll look at this next week to our boys. The supremacy of Christ over all things. We've read those aloud at breakfast, and I think just the repetition of that begins to stick, and we see more of it. That's good. So next week, what is it?
Next week, we will be in chapter 1, verses 15 through 23.
There it is.
Great section.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Well, thank you for tuning in, everybody.
From the loft.
From the loft.
From the loft.
Hey, and can our mascot be Lisa? The Reeves dog, Lisa.
Lisa the dog.
Yes.
All right.
Thanks, everyone.
Over and out.
We'll see you next time.
From the loft.